Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in the world. My name is Chris Willis, and I'll be your host today as we look at opportunities for residency in the Cayman Islands. Today, we're joined by Sue Nickerson and Chris Duggan from DART Family Office in Cayman, and delighted to have them here with us. We are live, so greetings from Montreal, where I'm been hunkering down for the last few months because of the travel restrictions and all of this. And I know Sue and Chris are enjoying the warmer climate, let's say, down in Cayman, and I'm very envious. Would certainly like to be there for now. We were hoping to have a representative from the government of the Cayman Islands, but the joy of being live, schedule conflicts arose, so we weren't able to have them join. But they certainly send their well wishes to the webinar. As mentioned, my name is Chris. I've been an immigration practitioner for 25 years, and my current role is with Latitude Consultancy, and I'm the managing director for government advisory and program delivery. I've been very fortunate to have lived in the Cayman Islands for the last couple of years, and prior to that in other areas of the Caribbean. So very familiar with the region, and I tend to shuttle between Canada, the United Kingdom, and the Caribbean. Our office in Cayman is also the regional representative office for the Investment Migration Council, otherwise known as the IMC. And this is a nonprofit body based out of Geneva that helps to promote code of ethics and best practices for the investment migration industry. So quick piece of housekeeping is, as we're going through the session, if you do have any questions, you'll see on the bottom of your screen there's a Q&A tab. Please type your questions in there as we go along, and then we'll be able to go through those throughout the session, and also as we are at the end, we'll have a question and answer session. Now, as it relates to us being live, I'm going to share my screen now, so bear with me, and we'll see if I can make the technology work. I'm going to go through an overview of the industry and how it works, and why people are looking at Cayman as a destination. And then Chris and Sue are going to take us through the opportunities for investment and how to actually qualify for residency status. Okay, so about my firm, Latitude. Excuse me. We're a growing firm. As mentioned, I've been doing this for 25 years. This firm's not quite that old, but we're now over 13 offices and 80 employees around the world. So we're definitely growing at a nice rate. And a big part of what I'm involved in is the government advisory. So this is where we work with governments to help them either refine their existing programs or design a new program from scratch. But the key aspect of what we work on is the residency and citizenship. So the private client services, making sure we're helping individuals who want to establish themselves in a new jurisdiction. As mentioned earlier, we're also the regional representative office for the IMC in the Caribbean. Just very briefly, as it relates to the government advisory, myself and my colleagues have been doing this for over 20 years, and have raised over $5 billion US of foreign direct investment to the countries where we've been involved. And over the years, you can see very briefly, working with Canada, the UK, and Antigua, and more recently involved in Malta, Canada again, Grenada, where I spent a year helping with the redesign of the program there and the relaunch of their offering. And very recently, we were granted an agreement in Anguilla, which, like Cayman, is a British overseas territory. And this is allowing them opportunities to attract people to their island under the new residence programs. So that was launched last year and is just starting to get some nice traction in the industry. So on the private client side, what we're going to focus on is the three main program types. So when people look at residence or citizenship by investment, you got these three boxes here. I'll touch very briefly on citizenship by investment, but the focus today is going to be on the residency and the tax residency. So citizenship by investment, these programs exist in the Caribbean. There's 5 jurisdictions that offer them. And the purpose here is it allows people a direct pathway to citizenship. So if you're coming from a country where you have very poor travel privileges, this is a relatively straightforward solution to allow people greater mobility to the world. So you don't have to, always be having your passport tied up in embassies or, waiting for visas, that type of thing. Many nationals from different countries don't have access to places like the United Kingdom or the Schengen area, for example. Other places like Hong Kong or Singapore, they've always got to wait for visas. And with the current pandemic, a lot of consulates and embassies are closed. So, even if you wanted to apply for a visa, you couldn't do it. So it just gives people that extra bit of comfort, knowing that if they had to get on a plane and go somewhere quickly, then they have a travel document to allow them to do that. We'll talk a little bit more about access to countries, because one thing the pandemic has shown us is that a lot of people aren't prepared. And so having this second citizenship or residency status definitely gives a different option. But let's switch our focus to the other two here: residency by investment and tax residency. So residence by investment essentially has two different subdivisions. One is for people who actually want to physically relocate, bring the whole family over and resettle in a new jurisdiction. So you see that in Cayman, you see it in other places around the world, the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, many places where people say, I want to improve my quality of life by relocating to this new jurisdiction. And we'll look in a moment some of the motivating factors and why they may want to do that. But then you've got tax residency, which, with Cayman, and I know I don't want to take away from Chris and Sue's portion, but they'll talk about the benefits of being in the jurisdiction, and the tax situation is one of them. But one thing that's clear as a result of, again, the pandemic and all the spending that's being done is that taxes are going to increase. I think we have to recognize that. And for some people, changing their tax domicile could be an attractive solution for them. And again, we'll discuss that in a sec. For our American friends, obviously, you're taxed on your citizenship. So this doesn't really come into play as much. But again, there may be some areas here that could be beneficial for you. Let's look at why people are doing this. So the mobility, top left here, we're talking about the ability to travel. This is what I touched on before as it relates to the citizenship by investment. So having that document. However, when you look at what's been happening in the pandemic, if somebody, let's say you wanted to leave the United States, for example, you wanted to travel to another jurisdiction. First of all, with a travel ban, you probably won't even get on the plane. And so having a second citizenship would allow you to do so, or in some cases, the actual residency, because the receiving jurisdiction won't actually let you in unless you actually can show that you have status. So we've seen this across the Caribbean, where many of the borders were closed, except for people who had the right status. So you couldn't just turn up as a visitor and say, hey, I have a property here, I want to come in and live in it. They say, well, if you don't have status, because of the pandemic, we're not letting you in. So having that status just gives you so many more options when it comes to travel. And again, I'll talk about our friends in the US. You've had your wings clipped when it comes to travel. I think that's one of the unfortunate byproducts here, but it's also given you a major reality check, that the power of the US passport is not what it used to be. Pre-COVID, you were looking at having access to 185 countries or so visa-free, and that's now dropped to about 75. So you've lost 110 countries or access to 110 countries, and so you're essentially stuck. And when you look at major jurisdictions, the Canada-US border, one of the most fluid in the world, has been closed for 7 or 8 months now, and it's still closed, and it's probably going to stay closed for a little while longer. Access to Europe, access to Asia, places like that where you think you took it for granted that you can actually travel to has been removed. So how do you compensate for that? And it's having a second residency or citizenship to give you that option. And when we look at the security, the second point here, a lot of people I'm speaking to, and I'll use the US as an example here, there's been a lot of civil unrest and people are worried, what are my kids going to get up to at night? Is there going to be a problem? Am I going to see something on the news? And, people are getting really worried. So they're saying, if things really start to get a bit messy, where can I go? And where can I go quickly? And this comes back to, if you don't have status, there's nowhere to go, especially if there's a travel ban. So that sort of perfect storm is almost brewing for a lot of people. And so they're realizing they need to have this plan B. In many cases, it's known as a non-traditional insurance policy, because it's not something people have typically thought about, because, for myself, being a Canadian, you don't think about it because you never had to worry about getting a visa to go somewhere because I have a strong passport. But if you're from another jurisdiction, you just couldn't do it. And so, we take things for granted that others maybe haven't. And security, if you're living in a country where there's a rule of law and there's, all these other benefits, if you're coming from somewhere that doesn't have that, again, you're taking that for granted. And that's where we need to realize why people are looking at these different options. We spoke about quality of life. Cayman is, and I will tease Sue and Chris on this, that Cayman's almost a false representation of the Caribbean because it's so first world, and they're going to talk a little bit more about this as well. But, the quality of life and what you can experience there is phenomenal. And again, I'm going to let them discuss about that side of it. They're going to talk about education as well and some of the great great schools that are there in Cayman, especially for people coming from overseas. Business. Many people are looking at different reasons why they may want to expand their business portfolio. And there's, again, a lot of different opportunities that can exist in Cayman for you. Retirement. I mean, a lot of people are looking at, I don't like this situation, let's say, in the United Kingdom. Maybe I'm a bit freaked out about Brexit. Maybe I'm worried about these rumors about capital gains tax, being increased to match my income levels, So if that's going to be, at least doubled, people are saying, well, maybe it's time to actually leave, and readjust to where we're going to be living, enjoy the benefits of a safe country, and also the nice climate. So there's a lot of people are reassessing, and again, I'm sure many of you participating here today, you've been working from home for a while and you're saying, well, do I need to physically be in an office block in New York City or in central London or in Toronto? I think we're showing that you don't. And so people are looking at the overall picture about how they're going to manage their life, and then in the US, we're seeing as well, a lot of people are concerned with the transition of government and the upcoming elections in Georgia for the Senate. And there's a lot of nervous people who are saying, what is the direction of the country going to be? And so all of these factors come into play in terms of why somebody would be looking at a second residence or citizenship. We spoke about tax planning as well. Again, I'll let Chris and Sue talk a little bit about that because, it's a very, very attractive jurisdiction from that perspective. So enough from me. I'm going to hand over to Chris Duggan now, who's going to be able to speak with passion, certainly about his home, of the Cayman Islands. Chris is the VP of Business and Development for Dart Family Office, and he'll then pass on to Sue, after which we'll be able to reconvene and go over some questions and answers. So Chris, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chris. I'm just going to share my screen now as well, so everyone can. I think you should. You got the right screen there? Okay. Sorry, thanks again, Chris. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us today, and thank you, Chris, to you and your team for again hosting us today. We appreciate you hosting us, and looking forward to spending the next few minutes talking a little bit about the Cayman Islands and why the Cayman Islands is sort of a jurisdiction of choice for foreign nationals looking to establish residency. So, as you said, Chris, just to introduce myself, my name is Chris Duggan, Vice President of Business Development for the Dart Family Office here in Cayman. I was, just a little bit of background, I was born and raised here in the Cayman Islands, and my background has been predominantly financial services and around private banking before joining the Dart Family Office about 8 or 9 years ago now. So financial services and leading on to the Dart Family Office. And so I want to talk a little bit about the Cayman Islands and residency in the Cayman Islands. And you can see from this first slide, we've got the Cayman Islands, the friendliest country in the world and the easiest place in the world to do business. And while these are sort of really just meant to be taglines, they're really key to what we're talking about today, because the fact that we are what we would consider one of the friendliest countries in the world and one of the easiest places to do business. These are two key factors which really are really creating the environment for people to want to establish residency in the Cayman Islands. So we're going to talk a little bit about that now, talk about our company and what we've done over the years to continue to make the Cayman Islands such a compelling place to do business. So just about Dart Real Estate. So Dart Real Estate is part of the Dart family office. Our principal, Ken Dart, moved to the Cayman Islands about 25 years ago and immediately started investing and developing to make what was going to be the home for his family and the headquarters of his family office a better place. And so since then, he's invested over $1.5 billion into the ground in Cayman, and he's committed, despite the current environment, he's committed to invest a significant amount more. And the real estate investments that he's invested in are kind of in this category here, the luxury residential properties. We have a lot of luxury residential we've invested in. Commercial office space is a key part. We've just in our flagship development of Camana Bay, which is in the photo on the screen, we've got over 700,000 square feet of Class A office space. And we've started another building under construction right now, which will be another 200,000 square foot of Class A space. So commercial office space is a significant part of it. The hospitality side, luxury resorts, as you can see there, our two main ones. We operate we own the Ritz-Carlton Grand Cayman and the Kimpton Sea Fire Resort and Spa, two of our many hospitality projects we have in the Cayman Islands. We have a number of retail companies, and we engage in a number of public-private partnerships with the Cayman Islands government. And our principal does this because, in addition to making the island better by investing so much money in real estate, we also want to ensure that the infrastructure is such that it would continue to create a vibrant environment for businesses to operate and people to live. So we invest in a lot of infrastructure projects alongside the Cayman government and also in community programs. We consider community development a key part of what we do on the island, and so our principal is committed to investing in those community programs. And he also wants he wants to establish or attract like-minded individuals to himself to the jurisdiction. And so our team comprises a number of specialists in a number of different areas, and we can provide a comprehensive service to any individual or business that are looking to relocate to the island. So we specialize in that, and we encourage anyone who has any interest to reach out to us, to any one of our teams, and we can talk to them about relocating to the Cayman Islands. So just a little bit about Cayman. Cayman at a glance. The Cayman Islands is made up of 3 islands: Grand Cayman, Cayman Brac, and Little Cayman. The capital of Georgetown is located on Grand Cayman. There are about 65,000 residences, and it's a very cosmopolitan country. We have over 135 different nationalities. We have one of the lowest population densities in the world, and with regard to GDP per capita, we have one of the highest GDPs per capita in the world. We have our own currency, the Cayman Islands dollar, which is pegged to the US dollar. So one Cayman Islands dollar is $1.25. Despite our many different nationalities, English is the main language on the island. So it is the official language is English, and the local population are Caymanians. Now, we are a British Overseas Territory, which is a very attractive part for many people, including our principal. That was one of the main reasons why he chose the Cayman Islands, the fact that we are a British Overseas Territory governed by British common law. And as you can see there, the climate is something that obviously makes it very attractive to so many people. It's a very warm climate all year round. And as you can see in our background, the beaches are one of the main attractions as well. So that's Cayman at a glance. There are many reasons why people choose to relocate to the Cayman Islands. We've categorized them into 5 main reasons why people choose to live and work here. That's ease of access, ease of ownership of property, ease of living, the tax neutrality, and the fact that Cayman really is just a very safe, simple, and sophisticated jurisdiction. So I'm going to go over each of them briefly now. In terms of ease of access, we're one of the easiest Caribbean nations to reach. We have 55 weekly non-stop flights year-round, and during the peak season, we have over 110 flights every week from 20 different cities around the world, and we're serviced by 9 different airlines. We have 17 different North American cities that we service on a non-stop basis from the Cayman Islands. So as you can see, a very easy country to access. And by extension, on the ease of access is the time zone. We're on the same time zone as the US East Coast, which is a very attractive point for many people looking to relocate here. If you look at the ease of ownership, we operate the Torrens system of land registration. I know a lot of people on the call would be familiar with that, but essentially what that means is that obtaining title insurance is generally considered unnecessary in the Cayman Islands based on this land registration system. There are no restrictions on foreign ownership of a single property. If you do start getting multiple properties, you may end up needing a business license, but there is generally no restriction on any foreign ownership of property in Cayman. And there's no alien landholding license is required at all. So compared to a lot of the jurisdictions within the region, it's a very positive jurisdiction in terms of the ease of ownership. With regard to living and the ease of living from a healthcare standpoint, which obviously is one of the main considerations when people look to relocate, healthcare is very strong in the Cayman Islands. We have 4 hospitals across the 3 islands. We have over 1,000 healthcare professionals employed in the jurisdiction. And we have a ratio of 4.5 doctors and just over 6 nurses per 1,000 residents, which is unmatched in any of the other jurisdictions within the region. Everybody who lives in the Cayman Islands must have health insurance. So all residents living in the Cayman Islands will have health insurance. From an education standpoint, we have a number of very high quality public and international schools. The curriculum is based on a mixture of the British curriculum and the American curriculum, depending on which school you choose to attend. And we have higher education institutions as well. We have medical school, veterinary school, and law school. So a good array of educational facilities, and most of our, or a lot of our high school students will matriculate to some of the top colleges around the world. So very, very high quality level of education based here. From a consumer services standpoint, as you can see, we have an extensive range of personal and professional service providers. We have the big 4 accountancy firms, some of the top offshore law firms located in the Cayman Islands, and some of the top financial services professionals living in the Cayman Islands. So it's from that standpoint, we're very well serviced. From a utilities standpoint, very reliable utilities. We have renewable energy programs. We have 2 water companies. Our electricity company, as I said, it's very reliable with very, very limited downtime throughout the year. Communications, which is a key part for anyone looking to relocate here. We have 4 internet and 3 cellular phone service companies. Very reliable services. The internet is a fiber-based internet, so again, very, very little downtime throughout the year with regard to internet. Tax neutrality is a key influencer and factor that people look to move to the Cayman Islands. We have no corporate income, property, capital gains, inheritance, or sales tax at all in the Cayman Islands. On the sales tax, talking about the VAT and HST. We do have a one-time stamp duty, which is a property transfer tax. It's 7.5% on most real estate transactions. But that's once you've paid that, that's it. There are no recurring land taxes at all. So in terms of other revenue for the government, there are import duties between 20 and 22% on most consumer products that are imported to the jurisdiction. There are immigration fees, there are company fees, incorporation fees, and then annual return fees. As I mentioned, the property fees is just the stamp tax and on the transfer of the land. We have tourism fees, so cruise ship departures, tourism accommodation. There are room taxes on the hotels, and then there are other government fees that you can see there: marriage licenses, trade certificates, passports. As I mentioned at the top here, we consider the jurisdiction a very safe, simple, and sophisticated jurisdiction, which is really what attracts so many people to come and live and do business here in Cayman. It's very safe, very, very low crime rate, probably one of the safest jurisdictions per capita in the world, and certainly the safest per capita in the region. We have a very solid police force with over 300 police officers on the island. Very stable government, democratically elected government, low debt. At the end of Q1 2020, we had a financial surplus, very strong credit rating, and a sound judiciary. I mentioned that we operate under British common law, which is a very a key part of what attracts so many people to the jurisdiction. That was on the safe side, and when we're talking about how safe the island is, we're also referencing how safe it is for financial investments, not just for living here, but also doing business here. It's very safe jurisdiction from that standpoint. From the simplicity side, we have a very efficient and educated public and private sectors. I alluded to that earlier with regard to the financial services professionals that we have on the island. Modern conveniences are very readily available in abundance. Very, very modern infrastructure, which really makes living on the island and doing business on the island so much easier than it is in so many other jurisdictions within the region. But at the same time, it's a very sophisticated island. We are the culinary capital of the Cayman of the Caribbean. As I mentioned, we have over 135 different nationalities, which really brings a very cosmopolitan feel to the island and to the outlook of the jurisdiction. We have a thriving arts and culture community and a very, very strong, close professional network. And there's so much to do. There's something for everyone to do in the Cayman Islands. And so really, as we said, it's safe, simple, and sophisticated. And it's why we think it is the best jurisdiction within the region to live and work and do business. So that was just a little bit of background about the Cayman Islands. I'm going to hand over to Sue in a minute now to talk about the residency by investment programs and other programs that we offer. So how we can get you all to move to the Cayman Islands. So we'll have questions and answers after. So if anyone does have any questions about the jurisdiction, please post them in the chat, or we'll be able to answer any questions afterwards. So with that, I'll hand over to Sue to take it from here. So Sue. I think you're muted still, Sue.
There we are. Can you hear me now? Perfect. Okay. Hello, everyone. And thank you again for joining us today. And thank you to Chris Willis for inviting us on your panel. We very much enjoy collaborating with you. My name, as you know, is Sue Nickerson. I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Sales at DART Real Estate, which, as Chris mentioned, is one of the divisions of DART. So our team is responsible for marketing and selling the residential and commercial properties that are developed by DART. And in addition, I work closely with Chris in helping promote the jurisdiction as a nation of choice for high net worth individuals that are looking to relocate here either on a part-time or a full-time basis. Chris Willis mentioned that Cayman is also the address of the Investment Migration Council at a regional level. And I'm proud to share that I got my certification with the IMC earlier this year as part of our commitment to ensure that when we do introduce real estate for sale to potential people looking to establish residency here, that we do so adhering to the highest code of ethics and standards as required by the industry. So I'm just going to share some information now that Chris has told you about how wonderful it is to live here and the many benefits of establishing residency in Cayman. We know that typically prompts people to say, okay, tell me more, how do I do that? Before I do, I want to quickly preface this by saying we do not provide legal advice on how to do that. Our role is to help introduce properties that would help applicants qualify for residency. However, one thing we do well is introduce very qualified lawyers who are specialists in providing residency by investment services to their clients, and I'll speak a little bit more about that at the end of this presentation. So at a very high level, you can achieve residency by investing in real estate in the Cayman Islands. As Chris noted, this is one of the most straightforward jurisdictions in the Caribbean in which to acquire property. So having established the fact that there are no foreign restrictions on owning land here, what it really comes down to is the type of residency program that best suits you and your family, and what those minimum requirements are to qualify to apply for residency. So the first program is called a residency certificate for persons of independent means. And in short, that requires an investment of a minimum value of US $1.2 million in developed real estate. In addition, the applicant should demonstrate an annual income of approximately $145,000 US per year that is derived outside of the Cayman Islands. You are required to spend a minimum of 30 days here annually, and it does not give you the right to work in the local economy, nor does it qualify you to go on a path toward eventual naturalization. So this program is really well suited to individuals that are looking, to get, as Chris Willis said, that place of safe refuge, perhaps to retire here. We're definitely seeing an increased number of inquiries from retirees, or those that, are globally mobile and might want to live here part of the year or even full-time, but work fully online. What we find, though, invariably, is that once people get here, they really fall in love, and they decide that they want to make this their forever home. And that as a result, they look to then apply for permanent residency for a person of independent means. So the programs are very similar in the sense that both give you residency in Cayman. But some of the key differences with the second option is, first, you need to invest a minimum of US $2.4 million in developed property. And you also must demonstrate that you can support yourself without working in the local economy. The two differences in this program is, one is that you can apply to get a variation to have the right to work in Cayman. And there is an opportunity to qualify to apply after 5 years for a British Overseas Territory passport. Again, there's a number of other requirements that are need to be met in order to make these applications, and we are always happy to introduce you to lawyers who have that expertise and can assist with that process. What our team focuses on is helping you find that real estate that can help you make that application. And I am having trouble transitioning. There we go. So one of the things people do ask us is, well, if I'm buying in real estate, I also want to make sure that the real estate market is fairly constant, if not growing in Cayman. And obviously, like any other thing that you invest in, it's always subject to market conditions, which are dynamic and subject to change. But in general, we have tracked the condominium price index in the Cayman Islands over approximately the last 20 years. And as you can see, in general, property prices here, the condo values have increased on an almost continual basis. Next slide. So then another thing people usually ask us is, okay, well, if I am going to invest in property, what does it look like? Like, what will 1.2 million US or 2.4 million US allow me to purchase? So we'll just give you 3 quick examples here. The first is the Residences at Seafire, which is a property that our company developed. This is adjacent to the Kimpton Seafire Resort and Spa. It offers 1 to 5 bedroom condominiums in a separate building, a residential building that has all of the access benefits to the resort, but is completely self-contained. And a one-bedroom condo here would start at $1.4 million. For people looking for residency, this is the type of project. There's certainly other ones on 7 Mile Beach and elsewhere on the island that would be similar in that you can also put your residents into a rental program if you are not on island full-time. And again, our team is happy to introduce projects like this to anyone who's looking to establish residency in Cayman. This next one is a master planned residential community at Cayman Bay, which Chris Duggan mentioned briefly. You can see that further in the background here. So this is a new project called Olea, which is located directly across from the Cayman International School and within a 10-minute walk to 7 Mile Beach. This project is currently under construction and properties here start at approximately $600,000 US. And the third project, if you want something super splash, or property rather, is Peninsula Estate. So this is a private residence in a gated community called Crystal Harbor. And this is on the market right now for approximately $17 million. So they were just a couple of quick examples to show you what real estate looks like in the Cayman Islands. Again, I think sometimes, as Chris Willis mentioned, Cayman is very first world, but people don't always appreciate the quality and extent of real estate that is available here. And we know that's something that's very important to people looking to relocate. Well, we have focused on talking about residency by investment through real estate. There are opportunities as well to establish residency through business investment. Again, we are happy to introduce anyone who's interested to lawyers who specialize in this. But essentially, please know that option is available, and it's quite a straightforward process to set up a business here. So there's some of the highlights, and again, we have some information resources available that can share more details on those options. One of the things that's new this year is the Global Citizen Program. So in keeping with some of our other counterparts in the Caribbean, we saw increased demand as a result of the pandemic for people who said, look, I've been working from home. I've been in a condo in a high rise in a very high density city for a number of months now. If I'm going to continue working from home, I might as well do it in paradise. So the Cayman Islands government has introduced a new Global Citizen Program, which permits qualified applicants to work from home in the Cayman Islands for up to 2 years. It's a very straightforward process to apply. The key thing to know is that you may work from home when you're in the Cayman Islands, but this program does not allow you to work in the local economy. So again, if you have any questions about this, we're more than happy to share program details about how the Global Citizen Program works, and then also introduce you to potential long-term rental properties, which we know are one of the first questions people ask when they're making an application for this program. One of the things people do ask is what's involved once I get to Cayman. The borders here are still closed to tourists. As Chris Willis noted, we are one of the countries that you do have to have status to come here, which means you either need to be a citizen or have residency status. So once you've established that residency status or permission to come reside here, which you can through the Global Citizenship Program, there is a 2-week quarantine period that's required. That quarantine can be done in a government-approved facility. There is a select number of hotels that are offering quarantine right now, one being the Ritz-Carlton Grand Cayman. And for property owners, there are also opportunities to quarantine at home. And again, we can provide more details on that. So here's just some highlights on the program. There is an application fee of just shy of $1,500 US, and then applicants must demonstrate that they have a minimum annual income to sustain themselves here. And this is simply provided by providing a job letter and a notarized bank reference, basically to show that you do have the funds available to sustain yourself. One key component here is families have been asking us, can my children go to school? And the answer is yes. Once you are approved for your global citizen visa to reside in the Cayman Islands for up to 2 years, you may apply to send your children to one of the private schools in Cayman. Just because of the ongoing interest in residency here, it is easy to get put on a waiting list. So we do encourage people to approach the schools early in their application process. And again, we're happy to help make introductions with that process. I guess it would not be easy to conclude a webinar without talking about COVID-19. So as Chris Willis mentioned, Cayman does have its borders still closed to those that do not have status to come here. But the great benefit about that is there is no transmission of COVID locally. And so that has allowed us to live our lives largely normally. So that means that all children are back in school full time. It means with few exceptions, we're able to go mask free. And we are able to have public gatherings right now up to 500 people. And you know, the business community here has continued to operate business as normal. Again, thanks to, as Chris Duggan mentioned, the excellent civil order, our incredible telecoms system, which is rated best in the Caribbean, and our great business infrastructure that we have here in general. So last but not least, how can we help you? Why, as a company like DART, joined a panel with Latitude? And that basically is, again, we know when people are looking to establish residency, they need two things, really. In addition to the initial services of identifying a jurisdiction, understanding its benefits, and getting the assistance that you need from an migration professional. People need property, first of all, if they're looking to invest in real estate to apply for residency, and they also need information. So our team is very happy, first and foremost, to make introductions to legal professionals here that can assist with immigration questions, property conveyancing. Oftentimes we find RBI applicants also are interested in wealth structuring advice, so we're happy to make introductions there as well. We also make introductions to banking institutions here for people looking to get mortgages, open bank accounts, or discuss their wealth management needs. We can help direct people to the appropriate government agencies to get things such as a driver's license once they're here, or even importing their pets. But what we really specialize on as well is that lifestyle information. So we really help applicants learn about opportunities here for education, healthcare, grocery shopping, spin cycle classes, and everything in between. So we're here to help and hopefully be a great partner to you as you look at relocating to the Cayman Islands. So with that, I will turn it back to Chris Willis so that we can answer any questions that you might have. Chris.
Thank you, Sue, and thank you, Chris, for your comments there and giving a great overview of all of the benefits of living in Cayman and obviously how to get there. And you know, we've got a few questions starting to come in, and I'll remind everybody, if you do have questions, please use the Q&A tab to be able to put your questions to the panelists. Now, you touched through on the COVID and the situation there, and I believe you and Chris have essentially been on island for several months, and you know, things started to open up around sort of July time. But how did you? I guess two questions, and this is from the context of people who are living in countries, whether it's the UK, Canada, the US, where they're in full lockdown. You know, how has it actually been? You know, being in Cayman, being landlocked, I guess, for lack of a better term. And you know, how do you feel that it's been dealt with, and does that give you comfort? You know, being able to use it as a safe refuge in these uncertain times.
So I'm not. I'll start, shall I, on that one, Sue, and then you can carry on. To answer your question, Chris, I mean it's been great actually. Our government were very, very proactive right from the outset. They made the decision that it was a stated decision that, you know, they're going to do all they can to ensure that we do not have any deaths in the Cayman Islands as a result of COVID, and so they said, you know, that we are going to have to take pretty drastic measures to ensure that, and they've stood by their word. And yes, we've been on lockdown since, and we've had a very strict policy. We had various curfews in place at the beginning, but as a result of that, very quick response and very proactive response, we've now been able to open the island up essentially to domestically. We're essentially fully open. Sue did allude, we do have a few restrictions in terms of gatherings of 500, which obviously is still a significant number, and so much more than most other countries around the world. There is no requirement for masks anymore. So domestically within our borders, we're living pretty much normal life, just as we were prior to COVID. And that's really a testament to the outstanding job the Cayman Islands government did from the outset, being very proactive. It's, at the beginning, it was a little tough. Some of the measures were very tough, but they've certainly paid off in terms of allowing us to live a normal life now. And so as we start to be able to welcome people to the Cayman Islands through this global citizenship program, through residency by investment, they're now going to be the beneficiaries of that, and they can now come down here and enjoy a very normal and good life down here in Cayman, which is COVID free. The downside obviously is our borders are still closed, and so there isn't free movement of people cross border. But I think that's a small price to pay at the moment for the way we're living, the quality of life we have here in Cayman right now. So it's been fine, and we're looking forward to welcoming people now to Cayman through these programs. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
I think just two things. If I could summarize what it's been like here for the last 8 months, I would say it focuses on two words. One is community, and the other is continuity. I've had the benefit of being able to live in 5 countries, and I live now in Cayman by choice. And when I reflect on how the island has responded, Chris has discussed it from a governance side, but what really has been remarkable is the demonstration of the true character and Cayman kind culture that is prevalent here. When those, particularly in the tourism industry, were adversely affected when the borders closed, this community came together so quickly in terms of philanthropy and support for each other, and the commitment of everyone to band together. There was the odd little moan and groan, but really everybody knew that they had to play their part into making the lockdown a success. And I think it really is a testament to the character of the island here, seeing the incredible amount of ongoing philanthropy, community support, and coming together to make this situation work. And second thing is continuity. So yes, we all did work from home for the first few months, and yes, we are all largely back in our offices now. And what's been incredible is how busy we've been. This has hands down been the busiest year in my career. And the phones keep ringing, emails keep coming in. We have done over 30 webinars now, hundreds of Zoom calls. I think we've talked to over 2,000 people in the last 6 months that are interested in the Cayman story. And when we talk to our colleagues in the legal, financial, private advisor services, they've also said the same thing. We've just never been busier. And yes, obviously our tourism industry has been impacted, but again, there's still been some success stories of work retraining programs that have happened during this time, and people that are looking at the long term, so that when we do reopen, it will be better and stronger than ever. So really, and just an incredible success story on both the governance community and business continuity level.
Well, wonderful. Thanks, Sue. And Chris, you made a comment in your remarks about the financial surplus as well, which I think is, I don't know if you're able to expand a little bit on that by having that allowed the Cayman Islands to be able to deal, with COVID in a very effective way. Did you have any comments on that?
Sure. I mean, yeah, with the government over the last 3 years, they're in the final year of the current administration, but have been very fiscally responsible and have created this the situation we had up to Q1 2020, where we were going to end the year with a surplus. Obviously, things have changed significantly with COVID, but as you said, Chris, it certainly has allowed or has enabled the government to handle the situation and provide for the locals during the struggles with COVID. So it's something that I know once we get back to normal, we'll continue to operate those fiscal responsibility measures to get back to where we were. But certainly the fact that there was a surplus has been a massive help as they've been combating the impact, and it has been a significant economic impact for a lot of the locals from COVID. Obviously, the tourism industry, which is a key part of the economy here, has been on hold since March. I mean, it's been non-existent, obviously, with closed borders, and so that surplus has been government has been able to utilize that to assist the locals that operated in that industry and others, but obviously tourism being one of the main ones. So yeah, it was obviously a massive help for the jurisdiction and the economy.
Yeah, I think having that buffer in place was, just again speaks volumes, as you were saying, in terms of the proper management of things in the Cayman Islands. Certainly when you look at other countries around the world that are just getting further and further into debt, and other Caribbean islands where they're, like Cayman, the tourism industry was decimated, but they didn't have the reserves, that Cayman has. So I think that's, again, just speaks volumes in terms of, if you're looking at somewhere stable, it's just another reason why Cayman is ticking all of those boxes. And Sue, I did like your comment as it relates to, if you had to quarantine, it's going to be at the Ritz-Carlton in the Cayman Islands. Yeah, could be worse, right? There's worse places if you have to quarantine. But I also, the Global Citizens Program, I think, we've seen that in other jurisdictions in the region as well. And I think the concept behind it is great for people who are maybe exploring this, as it gives them, the try before you buy, type of model to, and I think you both, and I'll concur with this, once you spend time there, it's very hard to say goodbye. And so if you're able to have a vehicle or a strategy to be able to get your permanent status, then you can do so. So do you have any idea what sort of how successful that's been in terms of numbers of applications or such like, or is it still, I know it's still relatively new?
Yeah, Chris, I'll just start by saying I actually came to the Caribbean, to a different island, on a global citizen program. So I'm a case study of someone who said, enough of snow and some other lifestyle factors that I no longer enjoyed in Canada, made the leap, was able to move to another island with turquoise water and great sunshine and work from home. And then, when in short order said, this is where I want to spend, the rest of my life, and then looked, at moving to that permanent residency path. So the short answer is yes, we are getting inquiries for it. And in fact, we've already had a couple who have said, you know what, don't even bother finding me a place to lease. I'm going to buy. I already know I like it, which we're like, great. Love your confidence, and we know that you're going to be happy with it, but we're seeing that pattern. Our early indications is, it's somewhere between 50 to 100 applications have been submitted to government right now. I think where we are right now is a lot of people are getting ready to make an application, but there's a bit of a chicken and an egg. So they're saying, first, I better check to see if I can get my kids into school. Secondly, make sure I can find a property that I want to lease long-term. Some are getting advice from their lawyers and accountants where they live now, whether that's the UK, Canada, the US, or elsewhere in the world. So because with every move, right, there's an exit plan and then an arrival plan. So we're getting inquiries from people that we know are planning but have not yet submitted their application. So I suspect, and of course, we're fast approaching the festive season. So I suspect that we will continue to see an increase in applications going into December and early January. But so far, yeah, it's been a healthy start. Again, we're happy to help people with any questions that they might have on what's involved in the process.
Wonderful, thank you. And a couple of the questions coming in, and to deal with the real estate. I know you put on your graph some of the appreciation of property, etc., in Cayman. One of the questions is there any properties that have guaranteed return or guaranteed yield? If not, what sort of expectations could investors have in investing in real estate in the Cayman Islands?
Yeah, we focus on promoting the properties that are available. We are not able to give investment advice or outlooks on property returns. Having said that, once people are here and they're able to look at their individual properties, there are some residential developments in Cayman, as I mentioned, that do offer optional rental programs. So we're happy to introduce individuals that are looking to buy a property and put it into rental. And then they can liaise directly with that developer or property owner to assess what the potential rental demand is.
Okay, wonderful. And another question as it relates to real estate is, can it be purchased using a mortgage as a part of the process of applying for residence?
In general, the applications require, and again, we would be happy to introduce the individual who's asking this question to a legal advisor who can share more details about the residency applications. But in general, the guidance that we have read suggests that you should not have a mortgage on the property for the value that you're investing. So for instance, with the 25-year certificate, if you're meeting that criteria for the minimum investment of 1.2 million, that should be mortgage free. Again, however, we would prefer to direct anyone who's interested in that to a lawyer who can provide more details on the program and the requirements.
Okay, wonderful. And I know you made a reference to the new development, Olea, and they're starting at 600. So if somebody purchased two of them, then they would meet the requirement of the 1.2 if they were going in under the residency certificate. Would that be correct?
That is correct. You can own more than one property as long as you meet that ultimate threshold minimum investment requirement.
Okay, great news. So we're going to wrap up in a second here. I'm just going to, enjoy the benefit of being live and put our contact details on the screen. But I wanted to give Chris and Sue a minute or so just for any final remarks or comments, just as we wrap up here as a message for the participants here today.
Excuse me. Before we do that, there was one other question, I think, with regard to citizens of other countries, whether they can apply for the global citizenship. There was one specifically from Iran. Any nationality can apply. However, some nationalities, in order to come to Cayman, will require visas in order to get into Cayman. Iranian citizens are one of those that would require a visa. And just as a guide, we tend to follow the UK visa requirement. So any nationality that requires a visa for the UK would require a visa for the Cayman Islands as well. But that doesn't preclude them from applying for the programs, just as long as they also get the visa where those are required. So I hope that answers the question that was raised.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, a good point. And again, this is all, what we were talking about before, where people, look at the second citizenships as well to have extra visa-free privilege. So if they were able to make sure they can get access to the country. And as you say, using the UK model or regulations as the benchmark, makes perfect sense, being a British overseas territory. Okay, Chris, do you want to finish off with any final comments at all?
So just very quickly, well, thanks again, first of all, to you, Chris, and your team, and thanks to everyone who's dialed in to join us today. I hope it's been useful. I hope you've got to know a little bit more about the Cayman Islands, and we'll just reiterate, if anyone does have any questions on the jurisdiction, on how they can move to the jurisdiction or take advantage of any of these programs that we've talked about today, please do reach out to myself and to Sue. And together, along with our team, we'll be able to I think, answer just about any question that you may have. And as Sue alluded to, we work with some great professional services firms here, law firms, accountancy firms, trust firms, who, if we're not able to answer the questions, certainly we can refer them to those individuals and those firms to get those answers. But the Cayman Islands, as you've seen, as I hope you've appreciated, is a fantastic jurisdiction to call home. And it's, as we've said, it's a very safe jurisdiction, both in terms of security and now in the context, or the global context, of COVID. Now, as I think we've certainly proved, thanks to our government, that we are a very safe jurisdiction in that regard, and I know will continue to be so. And so, for anyone who's looking to get out of countries which may not enjoy the same levels of safety with that regard, we'd love to welcome you to our shores, and we're here on standby to help you out in those endeavors. So again, thank you very much, and over to Sue for final words.
Thank you, Chris. And thank you again, Chris Willis, to you and your team. As always, we very much enjoyed collaborating with you, and we look forward to welcoming you back to Cayman in person sometime in 2021. I guess the message I would like to leave with everyone is we're here to help. And please know, no question is too trivial. And we will always do whatever we can to get back to you in a very timely manner and assist you with learning more about this wonderful place that I am so fortunate to call home. I do know, that there has been some hesitation with people that are saying, gee, do I really want to go through quarantine for 2 weeks in order to have the opportunity to potentially start a new life and, or at least spend 2021 in this very open, livable environment? And the answer I'll leave you with is absolutely yes. I'm actually quarantining right now. So I'm wearing my little geofencing bracelet here. I have my tracking device. I've been by the pool, I've read books, have a badminton court set up. I've had fabulous food. I've had ceviche delivered from Seafar Resort, sushi from the Ritz-Carlton. I'm keeping the restaurant business going here. As you can see, my telecom works perfectly. Working on my tan because I don't usually get to get outside that much because it's been such a busy year. The 14 days flies by so quickly, and then you really have this great opportunity to truly enjoy one of the best places in the world to live. So I'm also readily available. I'm not going anywhere. So please don't hesitate again to reach out. And I would just like to send everyone from the United States my very best wishes to you for a happy Thanksgiving, and to everyone else, wishing you and your families and your colleagues a safe and joyous start to the festive season.
Thank you, Sue. Very well said. And as you say, it also gives an opportunity for a bit of me time when you're quarantining, right? So so glad you've been able to do that. And you can see on the screen, you got all of our contact details there. So for all three of us, please reach out, as Sue said, no matter how small. We're here to help and to help sort of coordinate your move over to the Cayman Islands. Also, again, for our friends in the US, happy Thanksgiving. We hope everybody is keeping well and staying safe. I know things are still a little bit uncertain in certain parts of the world as it relates to COVID, but hopefully there's some positive news that 2021 will be a lot more positive and optimistic of a year than what we've had here in 2020. So again, I'd like to thank Sue and Chris from Dart Family Office for supporting us. To everybody who took the time out of the day to join us today on this webinar, which I trust you found helpful. We'll have a recording of this as well. So if you need to refer back to it, we're happy to share. And I wish everybody a wonderful day. Stay safe, wear your mask, unless you're in Cayman, you don't have to. And we will look forward to speaking to you again in the future. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.